Greetings, Africa enthusiasts. God sent me from Oklahoma to California to South Carolina to South Africa to West Africa and now back to America. So I'm excited to see what his next move will be for me, and I anticipate going forward. So whatever your higher power may be, I respect that, I embrace that, and I'm excited for your future in 2025, and I hope that you are too. So today we're just going to do a little contrasting and comparing our situation to various African nations, West, East, and African Americans. So welcome back to BWise Africa Movement. I am Loretta Simpson, and we're going to be exploring some intriguing connections and contrasting them before African Americans. Cape Verdeans, Mauritanians, as well as African Americans. So, we're going to talk about their histories, the social structures, as well as the colonial legacies, and some cultural identities. So, let's dive right into this discussion. So, this is really a journey you don't want to miss. It is going to give us some background information about how more alike we are than we are different. So let's start with the history of each group. It's the history is shaped by colonization, slavery, and cultural resilience. For African Americans, we are descendants of Africans and other native nationalities. So, slavery in America officially ended in 1865 and the 13th Amendment of the United States, but its legacy remains still today in 2025. It's ingrained in our systems, it's ingrained in social and economic structures. You'll see disparities across the board. And Cape Verdeans. In Cape Verde, it's a different little island, but it's special. It's unique. On that island, it is on the West African coast. It is where Portugal colonized these Africans in the 15th century. The Portuguese established one of Europe's first colonization systems in West Africa, using Cape Verde as a hub for the transatlantic slave. Slavery was abolished in 1876, but still today there's a strict social hierarchy which persisted, favoring the Portuguese who were white. The local mixed race individuals, free blacks, as well as mulattoes, you'll find them in New Orleans, in the French quarters, and even some southern states. In America, you'll be familiar with mulattoes, and then enslaved people were at the very bottom of this hierarchy. And then you have the Mauritanians. We've heard about the Mauritanians. Within that culture, they was colonized by France in the late 19th century. It was the last country to abolish slavery, believe it or not. They did not abolish slavery until 1981. That's very recent, with criminalization only coming in 2007. So, however, slavery like practices persist in places, in parts of the country, especially in rural areas today. So, let's talk about the social and the class structures of these groups. So, the Cape Verdeans class system is rooted in colonial history. The hierarchy placed Portuguese whites at the top, followed by mixed race individuals, and then the free blacks. And finally, enslaved Africans. And we need to understand the hierarchy. You had enslaved Africans across all spectrums, but you also had free blacks across all spectrums. That we miss in history today is that there were free blacks among the enslaved blacks that were doing amazing things. So today, Cape Verde is highly educated and has made stories and accomplishments and great strides in health and in housing, but many Cape Verdeans struggle with their own identity. Despite being descendants of Africans, enslaved people brought from the Gambia, Senegal, and Guinea Bissau, many do not identify with their indigenous African roots. Although they came west from the Gambia through Senegal and Guinea Bissau, Cape Verdeans do not claim themselves to be Africans. Now let's look at the Mauritanians. We all have heard about the Mauritanians. They've even been mentioned in biblical history. These are the original Moors. And so you have the Bedan Mauritanians, which is the white Moors, and then the Haratans, which is the black Moors. And so the white Moors, look at the structural power. It's across the board, even in America. The white Moors dominate the political and economic power, while the white Moors, despite being the majority, face systemic marginalization and often remain in servitude like conditions under the guise of tradition. Now, African Americans in the US, the class and social structures are tied to the access of education, wealth, and opportunities. While significant progress has been made, systemic racism and inequality continues to affect African Americans disproportionately. So we have the same historical context and same relationship where we are the majority, but we serve as a minority under the oppression of the few. And so we want to talk about the identity and the psychological challenges that we've encountered. So, cultural identity is a central theme for all of these groups, shaped by the histories and our environments. For Cape Verdeans, experience identifies struggles similar to African Americans. The colonial legacy left many disconnected from their African ancestry, creating a sense of culture ambiguity. African Americans also wrestle with a legacy of cultural disconnection, often gravitating toward ideologies of the oppressor due to systemic indoctrination, a phenomenon akin to Stockholm Syndrome. In Mauritania, the deeply entrenched class system reflects the remnants of slavery. For non Muslims, adapting to Mauritania's Islamic and hierarchy society can be psychologically challenging. However, for Muslim seeking cultural immersion, Mauritania offers a rich, complex experience. So let's deal with the lingering effects of slavery. Although slavery is officially abolished in all three contexts, its remnants persist. In Cape Verde, The legacy of slavery is evident in economic disparities and social hierarchy favoring lighter skinned individuals. In Mauritania, slavery like practices remain with white Moors choosing to stay with their former masters, with black Moors choosing to stay with their former masters due to economic dependence and cultural conditioning. Similar to Stockholm Syndrome for the African American. For African Americans, systemic racism, mass incarceration, and economic inequality are the direct legacies of slavery. So let's talk about the role of the Moors and the Berbers. I did a video about the Barbary pirate slave trade, and it talks about the Moors and the Berbers. You can locate that video and watch it here if you're interested in learning more about the Barbary pirate slave trade. So the Moors and the Berbers have significant cultural and political presence in Mauritania. The Moors, including the white Moors and the black Moors, dominate the country's identity. The white Moors maintain control over politics and wealth, while the black Moors strive for equality. Now, the Berbers, they're a whole different group. The Berbers, an influential ethnic group across North Africa, have seen increasing global recognition for their language and culture. Mauritania remains a hub for Islamic poetry and scholarship, highlighting the country's intellectual contributions. So, the advancements they have in Mauritania would be the international pressure is mounting for Mauritania to address their human rights issues. Activists continue to push for reforms challenging the entrenched systems of inequality. The similarities and differences among these groups. All three share a history of slavery and systemic oppression. Identity struggles and remnants of colonial systems are pervasive. Cape Verde has made significant advancements in education and housing compared to Mauritania and systemic issues faced by African Americans. Mauritania's rigid class system remains deeply tied to slavery. Unlike the most nuanced class structure in Cape Verde and the US, the stories of African Americans, Cape Verdeans, and Mauritanians reminds us of the enduring impact on history, identity, and society. If you enjoyed this information, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification button for more content from BWise Africa Movement. Let's keep these important conversations alive. We are unveiling the connections for African Americans, Cape Verdeans, and Mauritanians. So this is the legacy, the history, and the exploration. And there are many other African countries we can contrast and compare ourselves to. So wherever you decide to go, there are 54 countries in Africa. We have opportunities to explore all of these countries as Americans that will accept our passport or grant us a visa. So there is no need to feel as if you are stuck in one African country. There are endless opportunities for you to experience Africa. So I encourage you, whether you take a physical trip or a mental excursion, because if you're anything like me, my mind must go first and then my body will follow. I have to compartmentalize things and understand the direction that I'm going. So I am hoping wherever you are in life, you're seeking these opportunities and you're opening yourself up to experience all that we are and all the opportunities that we have. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing. And remember to come back. And if you have any comments, uh, experiences, make sure you add them so we can start having dialogue and conversation and engagement with one another. There's so many beautiful YouTubers out there putting great content out, not just about Africa, but being an African ascendant in various different places. But I like to believe it's all about finding peace and finding that place that's just right for you. All right, African enthusiasts. See you next time. Take care. Sending you lots of love. Peace out.